So when we think about retirement, we often picture freedom, free time, fewer responsibilities, and maybe a little distance from the chaos of parenting. But what if retirement also comes with a new kind of responsibility, one that can change lives? Welcome back to the Retirement Success in Maine podcast, where we explore the meaningful, sometimes surprising ways that retirees can live well, give back, and stay connected. I'm Ben Smith, joined as always by the responsible adult to my free range grandkid, my co host, Curtis Wister. Curtis, how's it going today?
It's going well. I'm not sure I'm the responsible one here in this scenario, but I'll take it. But yeah, just really, really looking forward to today's show, Ben. It's one I think that hits close to home for a lot of us, and I think a lot of us realize that even if our own kids are maybe grown and out of the house, that we can still play a major role in shaping the lives of the next generation.
Exactly. Whether you're a grandparent, mentor, neighbor, volunteer, you're likely someone's trusted adult. But what does that really mean? What makes a child or teen actually trust you, rely on you, and want to be around you?
Yeah, it's exactly that kind of lead in, Ben, is exactly why we invited our guest back to our show today. So, our guest today is Chris McLaughlin, who you may know from being on our show a couple other times, but he's been a part of our family here at the Retirement Success and Made podcast for many years at this point. So, his first episode with us was all the way back in episode 19, where we talked about building better relationships with our grandkids. And Chris joined us again in episode 42, which was also now a long time ago,
Mm.
where we explored the aging experience for LGBTQ plus Mainers. So, bringing with Chris, so he brings 30 years of experience as a licensed clinical social worker, educator, mentor, and statewide advocate. Chris has worked in treatment, foster care, residential treatment facilities, public schools, psychiatric hospitals, some private practice work, and pretty much everywhere in between. Chris is also an adjunct professor at five universities in the state of Maine, which is just, I gotta stop and think about that for a second. But that's a lot of work there. And he also currently serves on the Maine Children's Alliance Board, Diversity Hiring Coalition, and does some work with his local school committee. Chris has also been nationally recognized for his leadership in youth suicide prevention, honored for his work with LGBTQ plus youth, named Healthcare Social Worker of the Year in the state of Maine. And just because that's clearly not enough to be doing, he is currently pursuing his Doctor of Social Work degree at the University of New England. So I think my short version is Chris knows a thing or two about what kids need in today's world and how adults can help show up for them in the right way. So with that incredible background, please join me in welcoming back Chris McLaughlin to the Retirement Success in Maine podcast. Chris, thanks so much for coming on again.
My pleasure. Hi, Curtis. Hi, Ben. Nice to be with
Hey,
you again.
Yeah.
likewise, Chris. Thanks for coming on the show. And again, we're just a big fan of yours and how passionate you are for all the things you do, which obviously shows in kind of the resume that Curtis read off there. So it's just it's if there's anybody that we were going to have the conversation with about showing up for youth, I think it's you. So appreciate you kind of joining us today and kind of leading into the show for us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm flattered that you keep coming, having me come back.
Yeah. So Chris, I want to get into it because I know obviously we always kind of starts with kind of the background of you, and I think folks can kind of check out other two episodes, and we encourage them to do so
Yeah.
if they want to explore more of it. But there's a lot to unpack in terms of being a trusted adult, and I think it's really important to start with something simple but powerful, and that is the question: is in your view, what is a trusted adult, and what makes a young person choose someone as their safe space?
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be the place we start, I think. I often keep coming back to trust being earned, and trust doesn't come automatically with the title just because your parent, grandparent, teacher, um, neighbor, bus driver. That doesn't mean that respect and trust are automatic. And so, especially with youth today, it's an ongoing and honestly quite intentional process to be that person, to be that one. And times are different from when we maybe had those folks around us. But I think the rules, the playbook, honestly hasn't changed that much, right? It's about curiosity, being genuine, being authentic, and consistent. And these are going to be themes that I feel like we're going to probably talk a lot about over the next hour or so. And I'll keep coming back to that sense of showing up as a curious and consistent and genuine presence in a young person's life, and to not take for granted that just because I'm this young person's blank, their parent, grandparent, uncle, that respect and trust are automatically going to be part of that equation.
Chris, I want to just add to that because, and again, big Ted Lasso fans. I think we all are. And the kind of the key scene, right? The dart scene, and it's and the ex-husband there, and he's gonna take Ted Lasso to town and show him darts and everything, and then he kind of shows him, well, I'm actually like left-handed, not right-handed, and if you would ask the question, if you've been curious, and the whole curious, not judgmental. And I think that was an interesting dichotomy of that. Judgment maybe is the opposite of curiosity. And I think what kind of you just were pointing out is like showing up and being consistent, but being curious instead of showing up and all those things we can be, but then you're being judgmental instead of being curious, maybe is an erosion of trust there too.
100%, 100%. And yes, Ted Lasso did a lot of things right. Curtis is kind of rocking the Ted look. I love it.
I know.
I love that. I think that also speaks to how does judgment get communicated? And so certainly there's judgment that can come through in the words we're using, and we can perceive judgment non-verbally and through maybe the tone or the quality of what's being said, and the looks. And kids, just like us, can be really perceptive to that tone of judgment. So just because I'm saying, no, I'm not judging you, but I am somebody that communicates everything here. As a clinical social worker, I've had to work for decades at managing what this part of my face is doing.
Yeah.
And if the words and the face and the tone aren't congruent, that can be just as disruptive to trust as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point you bring up. And as you were saying that, I think I'm also guilty of my facial reactions at times to reacting to something in real time probably are my tell on what I really think, right? I think it's probably a lot of people. So I appreciate that. I want to keep going, Chris, and not to start off our show with talking about maybe what people are doing wrong or mistaking, but I think a common theme is, a lot of retirees that Ben and I talk to, in our day to day, they want to help kids, right? They want to be there for the children in their lives, whether it's their grandkids or the neighborhood kids or the kids at their church or at a school, right? We all know the population there, but sometimes I think good intentions can maybe come across a little overbearing, or even outdated if there's a big kind of age gap there. To just maybe talk about what are some common mistakes that you see adults make that are unintentionally actually pushing the kids away from them instead of achieving that goal of being there.
Yeah, I think you really highlighted a key word there, the unintentional piece. And so relationships take work, regardless of what that relationship is. Some of us, it might come a little easier than others, but regardless, relationships take work. And it take investment of time and resources. So I actually think it's a great place to start to name where some of those more common pitfalls may exist, so that as we are building intention about showing up and being that person, we can do some maybe retrospective and introspective, where have I maybe inadvertently misstepped? And it starts with good intention, and then it starts with planning and practice, and again, consistency. So the first thing, as you were saying that, Curtis, the first thing that came to mind is that comparison culture of back in my day or when I was your age, that stuff that I've now even heard myself saying to young people in my life, and I cringe when I hear it come out of my mouth, right? Because
Yeah.
as soon as we start to put that comparison, judgment can sneak in.
Yep.
I had it worse slash better than you can sneak in. And it signals to that young person, you're not hearing me, you're thinking about you.
Yep.
And so I think that's a real common, come by it rightly, misstep that we can make. Another one that comes to mind, and I've got friends that do this, probably now a little tongue in cheek, is that trying to be hip and trendy and cool and listening to the music or watching the TikToks or doing the things that you think young people are doing in an attempt to speak their language. And young people see through this. It is incredibly easy to know that this adult is playing a part, trying to fit in, trying to be cool. And by definition, that is cringe. That is not cool. That is absolute cringe. And so, there's a way to be curious without needing to try to be fake or pretend. And it actually is maybe more conducive to the conversation to not get it, to have the young person explain this to me instead of trying to be the expert in that pop culture moment.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great examples there.
So yeah, and Chris, what I hear you say is really being authentic is a very important way. Is not trying to be that artificial. I'm not 12, and it's tough for me to be 12 right now in this day and age. And why try to start throwing out 6 7s, and throwing my hands back and forth, right? It's like we're not there.
Right there.
We're not there.
Right there.
Kids want the adults around them to be real, not relevant. You don't need to be relevant to be real.
Yeah. And again, I think that's all really awesome stuff. And I obviously want to keep going because there's a lot we want to cover. But you've obviously worked with kids for decades, right? So I'd love to hear from your perspective what you think has changed for today's youth in terms of pressure, social challenges, maybe mental health, right? That makes the need for trusted adults today even more urgent than maybe before.
Yeah. It's a great question, and I talk about this all the time, and it's constantly changing too. That comparison culture piece is really pervasive. It exists in all forms, including social media, right? And so we know that young people aren't scrolling Facebook. They're scrolling TikTok, they're scrolling Reels, Instagram, and they are absorbing micro moments of comparison culture in a way that we probably can't even fathom. And it is a constant window into everybody else's forced fake realities. And for young people, that division of what's fact or fiction doesn't exist. And so comparison culture shows up, and even in schools, like we know, you both doing what you do probably know this better than most. The divisions between the have and have nots are growing by leaps and bounds year after year. And that is something that is just so incredibly front and center when you're in person with folks, and who's wearing what for sneakers and backpacks and sunglasses and all the other accessories and the tech. That division of who has it and who doesn't is incredibly noticeable as well. And so that adds to that pressure to perform and pressure to be on this in this crowd. I talk a lot too about community and belonging. That's a big part of my work. I think because of a lot of these other influences, social media, comparison culture, have and have nots, I think today's kids are struggling to find their place and where they belong and who their community truly is. I think that feeds some of the social media stuff, right? Social media, the internet is really great at giving us the illusion of our community, who our people are. And there's really no true sense of belonging there. But for that fleeting moment while I'm scrolling, I can try to trick myself into believing I fit in. That's part of the mental health stuff, Ben, of we know the consequences of isolation and loneliness and not belonging, and what that does to humans and our mental health and wellness. We've already talked about, I think, shifts in what authority means, what trust means. It's not automatic. It's not assumed with the role anymore. And so that's a piece that I think is changing. The final thing I guess I'll say is coming back to that, just the intensity of the pressure. It is literally everywhere in a way that I don't even think I can compare the pressure of being a kid in the 80s and early 90s has anything on what it means to be a kid today. That pressure is all encompassing.
Yeah.
I just want to throw an example at you, Chris, just because I think what you said is really important. And I was a kiddo and at Central High School and coming from Kenduskeag and 350 kids, right? Pretty small high school, and played basketball, right? There's three sports offered. It was like soccer and basketball and baseball, and you kind of fit into one of those three groups, and that was it. Today, it feels like, which is great, that we're celebrating kind of Cooper Flagg as this local guy that made it, and he's done really well. And I think we all celebrate him a lot, and I think that's a fantastic success story that we want to also root for him. But to your point about pressure, I think on kids, I think it has escalated the pressure that kids need to be maybe living up to that success story a little bit more. And I just see it where even my own kiddo, he saw the story, wanted to be like it, didn't make the team, doesn't make the ball team, and all of a sudden now there's kids on the ball team that go, well, you're not one of us, Caden. You got cut. And now he's like, I don't belong here. I thought I was part of this. And identity became an issue. And then there was a little bullying involved. And so just I kind of want to raise that because I like the intensity of what he experienced felt way more intense than anything me or my wife Kara experienced as participating in youth sports at sixth grade. I'm not talking eighth grade or senior year of high school. Like we're talking starting out.
Yeah.
So,
it's a great example. And I, not being an athlete, would never, and nobody would ever put my name and athletic anything in the same sentence. That was my brother, in and out. I was the band nerd. But I see it. And this pressure around sports, and it's a both and. Right. We know the benefits of young people participating in sports from a health, like physical health, as well as belonging, mental health, being part of the team, social skills, community, all of that. And there's that pressure piece. And I am struck with the bar, whether it's age or expectation, how that is shifting year after year. And we now have travel teams with 7 and 8-year-olds going all over the state with these club sports. And weekends are just packed with game stuff. Yeah. And it's a both and. It's super important. Lots of benefits. And there's this other side to it. Yeah. And the performance piece, the have and have not piece to participate in sports, especially not at the high school level or where maybe budgets are a bit more robust. This is all out of pocket or all fundraising.
Yeah, sure is.
And that also adds that line of you can or you can't.
Yep.
And for those kids who can't, their athletic ability or passion or interest no longer become relevant. It's the ability to buy the stuff to do the things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that was an important conversation. It's real. I think we all see it every day, and specifically the sport angle. Um, yeah, it's just sorry, you guys are making me think about now. I have a young baby at home, and I'm like, man, this is what are we getting ready for here? But
Yeah,
so
start putting that money away, Curtis. I got guys to talk to.
exactly. Chris, I do want to kind of keep going through our conversation here. So I'm a big scenario, real example kind of person on this show. So just something Ben and I see, and so a situation I think that a lot of people might face listening. So we have a grandchild, right? And the reaction is this grandchild is maybe pulling away from us a little bit. It's tough to communicate, right? They're not necessarily like rude and hurtful or anything, just a quiet kid, let's say, right?
Yeah.
They're the reaction we hear a lot from the grandparent is, they spend more time on their phone than they do talking to us, right? I know that's probably a bigger conversation we could have, but in this sake, I guess the question I have for you, Chris, is how can we start building that trust with, in this case, let's say a grandchild who just seems quiet and to themselves without that overbearing, like I'm forcing connection upon you and
Yeah.
I'm making you hang out with grandpa this weekend, right? Like, is there a
Yeah.
line there that we can kind of ease into that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite sort of mantras in this work is presence is power. And so you can be connecting in the proximity without necessarily needing to force conversation or activity, right? And so we know that oftentimes when we chase, it increases the likelihood of the other person running away and moving and wanting more distance. It feels overbearing. And it adds pressure. And as we just were talking about, these kids don't need more pressure.
No.
These kids don't need more expectations. And so I love the idea of, and I can visualize that scenario, Curtis, of kids on a tablet or iPhone or doing what they're doing, and grandparent just sits on the couch next to them and reads their book or paper or starts scrolling TV. That presence is so powerful. Yeah. And presence without pressure is even more powerful. And so what does that kid learn? That kid learns they don't have to perform. They don't need to be or do something that they're not ready or able to do in that moment, and that they can experience connection through that proximity without having any expectation placed on it. I think that says a lot. That communicates a lot.
Yeah.
As soon as you start trying to tug that kid away, that first conversation we had, that is laced with judgment. I have something better that you should be doing than what you're doing now.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking through that scenario, Chris, of let's say the kid's on the couch with the iPad and grandpa's reading the paper, whatever it is. I think, and I have no research to back this up, I'm just playing the situation in my head. I bet you'd find that there's moments then when organically the kid just looks up and chats or says, "Hey, did you see this?" Or here's something that grandpa's watching on TV, and the kid here, right? I think you would probably find more natural conversation there anyway. Over time. So I like that.
I think so too. And I think it also provides some opportunity for grandpa to say, "What you doing over there?"
Yeah.
Or when the noise sound or the kid starts to laugh because they're scrolling the YouTubes.
Sure.
So funny. Hey, bud, show me. I want to see that too.
Next thing you know, you got Gramps doing TikTok dances with the kiddo, and we're all hanging out. So,
and there's connection right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to the curious theme. I like that. I want to go up a level. So let's kind of talk about maybe adult children, right? I'm of a retiree age. I have adult children, and again, we're talking about intensity of pressure. Also, I think there's an intensity of pressure on today's working professional, right? That they're having to do more and more of their careers. They have to be more efficient. They have to be more effective. And they have to do less with more a lot, working long hours or balancing things. Their kiddos have more pressure on them. So sometimes maybe you might have help. You might have a grandparent that steps in with the grandkids, and because the working parents are busy in those careers, but now maybe that grandparent is thrust right into the middle of parenting decisions. So how do we balance this? How do we stay supportive here? Right? We want to help. We want to be beneficial to the relationship, but we want to do it without stepping on toes. Of I'm not the third parent here, so I need to be respectful, mindful of that. How would you kind of counsel someone, Chris, to kind of think about that relationship?
Yeah. Here's my favorite part about working with humans. The best practices, whether you're 7, 17, 47, or 87, don't change a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And so there's some of these universal truths about how to be trusted, how to not overstep, how to respect lanes that are the same, right? Don't chase, don't judge. Presence is power. Stay curious. Don't compare. When you remember, I would have never let you get away with that.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's laced with judgment again. Yeah. And so everything we've been talking about apply for those adult kids that seniors, retirees are now maybe supporting. And that idea of lanes, I think, is an important one. We've had these conversations before around transparency and really planning the conversations in advance. And so working adult to adult is you can have that conversation in advance. Hey, mom, dad, what's your policy on screen time? Yeah. What's your policy on homework? What's your policy on snacks? How can I respect the rules of your household? Is it okay if I have a little fun grandma, grandpa moment and I've got the candy drawer? I mean, This is something my mom insisted on, the candy drawer. She was not going to we weren't allowed candy drawers when we were kids, but as a grandma, she wanted the fun candy drawer. And that was something she wanted to not have to ask permission for. Or certainly not seek forgiveness afterwards, right? And so I think just having that upfront conversation that's transparent is really essential. And I love, Ben, like you named it, today's parents are also under incredible pressure, financial and otherwise. And so we need that whole village to support parenting these days. It is not easy, and it's not getting any easier. So engaging the village means I've also got to humble myself a little bit and be willing to compromise. And then that would be my feedback for the parent asking for some help is, where are you willing to compromise? Yeah. And maybe it's the candy drawer, maybe it's later bedtime, maybe it's sleeping in, whatever that looks like. You got to also be willing to give a little bit.
Yeah, that's an important point.
Yeah, I just want to kind of, I'll throw out just what I've done, Chris, and you can judge what we're doing or not. So,
no, we're not judging. That's the thing.
Yeah, we're curious. We're not judging, right? Yeah. So, but I think we're obviously I'm very fortunate. My parents and my in-laws are both very close. They're very active in my kiddo's life, and I think what my wife and I have really found is just opening up the communication channels a whole lot. Is like, hey, they're taking Caden for the day, but I want to let you know, like, so here's what's happened the last 3 days. Like, this is what he faced this challenge. He faced that challenge. he's a little upset and sensitive about this going on right now. And here's how we've been responding. Here's how we've been coaching.
Yeah,
Here's how we've been talking about this. If it comes up, I just want you to know here's what we've been saying, not kind of giving pre-forced instruction. You must say this or you must do this,
right.
but that they kind of are, they're not disarmed by something that comes up that they think is new that might not be new. And now we're getting conflicting signals as we kind of, to talk about kind of co-parenting in a way, is kind of thinking about that. And I felt like that has maybe avoided a lot of landmines that maybe would
Yeah,
have been there if we didn't have those briefing conversations post and before,
yep,
as we went through.
yep. There is absolutely nothing to judge in any of that, Ben. Like, it's everything we were just talking about with transparency and communication and being vulnerable. And with all the pressure that kids are under in the best of days, you throw in a disappointment, you throw in bullying, you throw in a young person who maybe is challenged by a mental health need or maybe some needs around managing physical health or illness as well. And then the level of tightness of support even magnifies even more. The village analogy is one that I come back to over and over again, because in a village, there's going to be shared culture, shared rules, shared laws. Thou shalt not do this. And that's got to, no matter who's in charge, those rules have got to apply. And typically those are around safety, right?
Yeah.
Then in the village, the way that the individual folks uphold those laws or those norms of the village, maybe there's some shifting in approach there, right? Maybe one person is pretty like speed limit 45, you're at 46, you're done. The other person gives you that 9 or 10 like limit to, that's okay, right? You can be consistent and flexible at the same time. Because you're having those conversations right up front, though, Ben, it's very clear what the non-negotiables are going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like
think that ending statement right there, Chris, is the most important, right? It's and I know we just spent time talking through it, but the upfront communication, nobody's blindsided, nobody's shocked
Right.
by these, right? So yeah,
No
I just
surprises.
yeah,
Yeah.
we don't like surprises with these types of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, continuing down kind of this conversation, Chris. Obviously, today is a very digital world. I think for every generation, right? I think kids, for all of us, for our parents, everyone has been kind of thrust into this very
Mhm.
digital world. But again, specifically today, kids especially are just in a very digital world. We have texting and Snapchats and TikToks and Instagrams, right?
Yeah.
All of it. So my question for you, again, still thinking from the retiree, maybe grandparent lens here, I maybe they're not as connected, right? And they're not as up to speed with the technology. Although I will put a plug out there for that generation. I am amazed, just we see every day the ability that they have gained to use technology over recent
Yeah.
years. I want to applaud them. But for this sake, let's say we're still not comfortable with it. We want to be in touch with the kids. We feel completely out of touch because we don't know how to go on Instagram and watch a reel or whatever it is. Do these grandparents need to like understand the platforms to understand the kids? Because I think that's maybe a feeling they have is, well, I
Yeah.
can't help because I don't know how to use Instagram. And so can you
Yeah.
just talk about that a little bit, like that
Yeah.
separation?
The answer to that question is a resounding absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's not the platform that's important, it's the purpose of the platform that's important. So understanding what purpose does the platform serve for that young person is the critical conversation. I don't have to be proficient, and I am not, in all of these different apps
Yeah.
or platforms, but I know, oh, Instagram, pictures, short videos, TikTok, it's all short videos, right? YouTube, video by definition. So, what is the purpose? And then what need is it potentially serving? And that's where the curiosity that we've been talking about comes in.
Yeah.
You don't have to invest the time or the energy in learning or even having kid teach me, because that's a little cringe too. Like, teach me TikTok? Nope. Show me.
Yeah.
Show me what you're doing. And that's where I love that that example of grandpa on the couch next to grandkids TikToking, grandpa's reading the news.
Yeah.
And they're connecting through proximity and through presence without needing to risk being inauthentic with suddenly I'm taking interest in this thing that I have no idea what it does, no idea how it works, and I'm never going to use it. I'm not going to connect with, we're not going to send reels back and forth to each other. We're not going to Snapchat each other.
Yeah.
But it's important for me as grandpa to understand how and why you're doing what you're doing. I do want to, though, reference this piece about safety. And we all know the significant safety concerns that exist in social media. And, I've worked with a lot of parents and grandparents who assumed that the crossword puzzle app was no big deal. And we've had to educate folks. It's not the crosswords that they're doing. It's the embedded chat within the platform. That's why they're on it.
Yeah.
It's not words with friends. It's live conversations with friends. And so I think it's important to also make sure that we are providing clear rules and guardrails around these things. And that's where the Ben, that you were referencing with your parents and in-laws becomes so critical. Like, we do not allow tablet and bedroom door closed. Like, that is absolutely off the table, no matter how well they did on the spelling test that day. But understanding the basic safety pieces, I would rather spend time teaching or having conversations about internet safety instead of investing time and trying to teach somebody all the platforms and how to set up accounts with all of those things. They just need to know the guardrails.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I think, so sorry, I'm just taking in, I was going to bring up another example, but we've talked about Ben and Caden and Kara enough, so I'll keep going. Ben and I, we were just talking about it yesterday, the internet safety, and it was the chat piece that you brought up. And we were talking about video games, and like, there's a game that the kids want to play, and maybe the game's a little violent or something, but we can get by that. But it's the strangers all over the world with no limit that can then talk to them in a headset. And so anyway, we've covered that. So I want to keep going though. So I think it's certainly a theme we've talked about even on this show a lot, is maybe our listeners or elderly, citizens that maybe don't have grandkids themselves, or maybe their grandkids live across the country. And we still want to become trusted adults though. We still want to help in the community, right? We want to be there for that generation, even if they're maybe not our bloodline or our family, right? So what are some ways that someone can still feel like they can become that trusted adult in their community, maybe outside of that family relationship?
Yeah. And I love that. Like, in the settings that I've worked, I am one that would never say no to somebody who wants to come in and volunteer or share time or share skills or expertise. So that mentorship piece is huge, huge. And, something that we have talked about, the three of us together in this setting, is the research around being the one safe and trusted adult, especially for youth who are at higher risk of not finding their community, not belonging. And so I'm talking about LGBTQ youth, I'm talking about neurodivergent youth, I'm talking about youth maybe from a lower socioeconomic status that isn't quite fitting in. with the rest of the crowd. These are the kids who need that safe, trusted adult from a resilience, from a protective factor perspective, more than ever before. And so, every community is a little different. I have friends on the West Coast that their neighborhood school has a volunteer reading program, and every Thursday morning, folks from all over the community come in, and they're spread out across the school, and they do reading. And the teachers provide the book, and they just are looking for folks to do the reading part. Yeah. Local libraries do a lot of that stuff as well. There are some programs, nonprofits. Maine has several of these, like the volunteer Grammy and Grampy stuff. What we probably thought of as Big Brother, Big Sister
I was just gonna
back
say,
in the day.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Big Grampy, Big Grammy, and that's opening yourself, maybe opening your interest and your time up to a young person in the community that doesn't have access to that or would benefit from that. Clearly, there's got to be guardrails there too, right? Like we don't have anybody off the street come in and read to kids. There's a process that folks have to go through, and rightly so. But investing that volunteer time, especially as a retiree who I might find myself having a little bit of time to fill, giving that back to a young person in need, I can't think of much more that would fill a cup than that.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
Chris, I want to share a quick story to that too, because I think that's something where, again, I've kind of valued myself community work because it I think enriches you in so many more ways. Yeah. But the mentorship is something that I've kind of found is like that's kind of what I like, and we're kind of getting one-on-one conversations where you're getting deeper into things instead of touching people in like little shallow areas, as you get to really dig into it. And there was just a wealth management night at the Maine Business School like a few weeks ago that Curtis and I went to, and students that are interested in finance and wealth management and investing. So of course, the statistic is like 34% of people in the field are women. It's 2/3 essentially male. But, as a population, we have the majority of people are female in this country, right? So it's 51 or something like that. But you go, why are women really kind of off ramped in this industry, right? Why, they get kind of put into operational roles, they get put into other roles that maybe feel like maybe there's a little bit of a glass ceiling. So had two young ladies, and again, one's a senior, one's a sophomore, met with them the last couple of weeks, and going like, hey, you're gonna run into stuff. You're gonna run into these sorts of things, and know your power. Know where you're, if you have goals, and if you work through these things, you can get to these places. Yeah. But it's kind of like that has like filled my cup, right? Is to go, hey, here's a population I think that can achieve this stuff, and they're not, they're over 18, they're adults now, but here's young people that really need help and guidance in kind of the industry. I'm sharing this story because I think doesn't have to be family. It doesn't have to be like, here's just somebody. Yeah. It could just be industry wide. I think there's a disconnect in my industry. Yeah. How can I help maybe another generation go through maybe or go around roadblocks that I had to go through, make it easier for them? And we have a kind of a mentored conversation back and forth. So I wanted to share that out to you too. And
I love that. Yeah. And being that matching around shared interests, to some degree, the hard part's already been done for you in that sort of dynamic where, hey, Ben and Curtis, we've got a group of young people who are interested in blank. You both do blank. Yeah. Do you mind? That's perfect. You don't have to do the step of finding the thing that you can connect or bond over. It's been done for you. So those opportunities I would absolutely jump over. And there's that mentorship as well as the modeling piece. Yeah. And, I think about, similar to you both, community service is a big value of mine, and mentorship and being the safe, trusted adult in a young person's life is meaningful for me. I spend a lot of time with LGBTQ youth in different settings and forums, one of my most favorite and cup filling and humbling things I get to do every year is be part of Equality Maine's LGBTQ youth camp here in the state of Maine. And we get 45, 50 queer youth in the woods to provide them with like a real summer camp experience. That is something that typically these young people don't want or don't feel like they're accepted or wanted there. Mm-hmm. And we get to, the adults who are there, myself included, get to model that you can be a queer young person who develops into a happy, healthy, safe, and successful adult. And there is a future out there for you, whether it's in this industry or within this community or identity. And that just is such a magical gift to be able to pay forward to the next generation.
Mm. Love that. And applaud you for doing that, Chris. Thank you for kind of your voice there and advocacy. That's just really important. I want to ask a question, and this is something where growing up in a small rural town, I think we had like 4 or 5 suicides as classmates when I grew up. So you've done incredible work in suicide prevention and youth mental health. And so I just want to ask, because I feel like I'm just sensitive to that just because I saw it growing up a lot, and just the impact of a small town and how it gets ripped up when something like this happens. And just want to ask about that role of that trusted adult in helping a kid through tough times. Right. And what are some signs that a child might need more professional help? Because again, you don't want to look for signs of things that are not there, right? And you're maybe oversensitive, but also, there's a lot of things that you said, like especially from a digital age, of things that might be happening and things that might be in a youth's world that you're not aware of. And if we're looking for things, maybe we can help steer them towards a positive route on kind of overcoming these challenges.
Yeah, that is a super important question and conversation. And I think it's just important to name, that Spider-Man Marvel thing about with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. And it's great to be the one and be the cool adult in a person's life. And when you sign up for that, you sign up for all of it. You sign up for the cringy TikTok stuff and the laughs over shared YouTube videos and the fun drives in the woods and all of that stuff. And you sign up for the tough times when it's not going as well. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to name that piece around consistency and showing up and intentionality, that when you set your intention to being the one for a young person, you're in it through thick and thin and all of it. And this is part of the all of it. And we've talked about youth being under significant pressure. We've talked about some of the mental health stuff of being bullied or not belonging, being an outsider and all of that stuff. And we know, just not just here in Maine, but across the country, the data around onset of mental health concerns, anxiety and depression especially, is showing up younger and younger and younger. Eating disorders showing up younger and younger and younger, and all of the things that come with that. So I love that folks listening or watching this can start maybe thinking about, how do I get more confident and how do I get more competent in just holding space for a young person to struggle? Yeah. Because it's different, and this is not that going back to the comparison culture thing, like the way we did it no longer applies anymore. So we've got to throw that stuff to the side and be willing to learn what kids today need. And so there's a couple pieces here, Ben. There's kind of knowing the signs. And I do a lot of work with families and caregivers around just the suicide prevention 101 stuff. Trusting your gut. So when something is feeling off or not at baseline, I'm going to, turn the radar up a little bit and tune in a little bit more. Signs like starting to withdraw, starting to lose interest in the things that brought joy or happiness or passion, shifts in things like mood and sleep and appetite, shifts in peer groups, actually being listening for signs of hopelessness or helplessness. It's never going to get any better. It's always going to be this way. No one will ever like me. Maybe increased risk-taking behavior, walking the train trestle tracks, not wearing seatbelts or bike helmets, just changes in those behaviors, starting to give their prized possessions away, the baseball card collection, the Pokemon collections, starting to gift those, and certainly any signs or evidence of self-harm. So cutting marks, burning marks, scabs, or it's the middle of summer, 80-ish degrees, and the sleeves or sweatshirts pulled down over the hands, wearing the sweatpants, not letting folks see their legs. See something, say something, trust your gut. And if you are not the primary caregiver, you're the part of the village, that piece around open communication. These aren't secrets to keep, and making sure that the young person's primary caregivers or parents are well aware of what you're noticing and what you're seeing. The other thing I just want to name like, this is not the fun part of being the trusted adult, being a part of the village, and it's essential. The number one fear I hear from caregivers, grandparents about this dynamic is this assumption that if I talk about self-harm or suicide with a young person, I'm going to put the idea in their head and they're going to do it, and then it's going to be on me. And there is zero evidence that suggests that talking about suicide is correlated to causing self-harm or suicidal behaviors. In fact, it's the exact opposite. When we normalize talking about feelings, when we normalize talking about the hard stuff, like as much as the good, fun stuff, we create environments where a young person can feel more comfortable and not judged when they acknowledge, yeah, you know what, I have been wondering what the world would be like if I weren't in it. And to be able to have that conversation and then get resources and get help.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just
so that was a lot to dump on.
But it's
a lot to it, for sure.
And it's a super important conversation, Chris, and I thank you, and I know Ben thanks you for having it with us. And so I just hope people listening, of course, if you find yourself in a situation like that, you communicate it, you find the resources if you're not the resource, and just
and take care of you.
Yeah.
Like, that's the part I don't think we talk about enough in parenting, caregiving, that it's depleting. It is hard to be on all the time.
Yeah.
And it's so essential and I know it's a term we overuse, self-care stuff, but it is essential to make sure that you as the caregiver, you as the grandparent or the retiree are getting your cup filled from time to time, getting that break. It's hard. So finding a resource that supports you in balancing the things that trusted adults have to balance is also, I think, an essential part of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're nearing the end of our conversation today. I have two kind of closing questions for you. One is we're still on topic, very much so, with this first question. It's kind of a buzz question, if you will, an action item. For somebody listening, let's say this sparked this was the conversation that they heard that said, you know what, this is it. This is the weekend that I want to start showing up for the kids in my life, but I just don't know where to start. Can you just tell us, Chris, like, what's one thing that grandpa, grandma, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, whatever it is, what can they do this weekend to start this kind of building connection?
Yeah, a great question. And I love that leaving folks with some actions myself. Keep it simple, keep it intentional. So maybe it's find one moment to get curious about, to ask the question and really listen to the answer. Maybe it's one moment to have proximity and create that safe connection with no pressure. Presence without pressure.
Mhm.
And maybe it's just as simple as sending a text or a card or a call that says, I'm thinking of you. No pressure to respond.
Yeah.
Just wanted you to know I was thinking of you and smiling.
Yeah.
That's
I
all
love
it
that.
takes to start creating those moments.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, of course, thank you so much for coming on our show again. I know we were saying this is your third episode is now concluding with us. You're the leader in the clubhouse, if you will. You're our most featured guest at this point. So I do have to ask you the question, though. It's a question I know I asked you a long time ago. So for people maybe who didn't hear it, obviously go back and hear the answer now. But I think a lot of things have changed over the last few years for all of us and the world we were just talking about. So maybe your answer to this question has changed too. So the Retirement Success in Maine podcast, obviously that's our show. When you think about kind of your own journey, Chris, and your retirement that's down the road ahead of us, how are you going to define a retirement success for yourself? Like what does that look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't even remember how I might have answered that question before. And I will say, and I will be incredibly just honest here. It has been working with the two of you that has helped clarify that question over the years. I don't know
Yeah.
that I would be thinking about the stuff the way I'm thinking about it if it wasn't for the support both of you have offered along the years. So thank you for that. I'm 51 and a half as of Saturday, tomorrow.
Okay.
And I think for my husband and I, we have started to really think about retirement less as an on or off and more of phases or transitions.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be the light switch that goes there. I'm retired and I have all the time in the world all of a sudden. It's really understanding how I'm wired and who I am as a person. And I am not one that will ever be able to distance myself from aspects of this work or aspects of even these conversations we've had today. But it's the understanding that it's not all or nothing and that there are transitions and phases that we can go through where we can embrace leaning in to a little bit of a slowdown. But, and here's the answer to your question, Curtis, slowing down does not define retirement.
Yeah.
It really is about the balance of slowing down in one aspect that allows us to ramp into maybe another aspect, whether that's going to be travel or home improvements, or between Derek and I, it's that proximity is power and presence is power. He's scrolling his thing, I'm scrolling my thing, but we're doing it together, and that ultimately, at the end of the day, is all I really care about.
I love that. I love that. And I'll just say candidly, I at the beginning of your answer when you were saying retirement's not going to be a light switch off for you. I think anybody who heard your bio that I read about an hour ago, I think it's clear you like to stay involved and do impactful work. So that's not a surprise
100%.
to hear from us for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And so thanks for giving me the Third Timer Club opportunity. And honestly, thanks for making the time for these conversations. I think they are essential in the world we live in today.
And Chris, I would just want to say is, every time I think we have a conversation, I think Curtis and I get to be better people, just from a kind of understanding our EQ goes up, right? As a kind of getting a better sense. So you might have the best IQ in the world, but if you have a very low EQ, your relationships, I think, suffer. So I think we just continue to get better and better. And for I don't know, me personally, it's a little bit of continuing ed type thing that it feels like, hey, I'm getting better at this thing called life, and
Yeah,
we're getting better with the people we work with and relationships, because at the end of the day, it's really that's what we have is we're
100%.
measured by the relationships that we keep. So thank you for doing this. And again, I know the third time is not going to be the last time. It's going to be we're going to do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Keep going. But
Perfect.
yeah, this is a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of necessary conversations that were coming out of this. And again, I thank you for taking your time too. And as Curtis read, is you're busy enough, and we're adding more to your plate. So thank you for sparing and sharing your time with us, because we really
Yeah,
do appreciate it.
my pleasure. And it's less the plate than it is the cup. These
Mm.
conversations with the both of you are absolutely filling the cup, not taking up space on the plate. I promise you.
Awesome. Thanks,
Well,
Chris.
Chris, you be well, and we will catch you next time. Thank you.
Take care.
So, listeners out there, obviously, good conversation with Chris McLaughlin, and again, kind of, I think every time we talk to Chris, we learn more, and hopefully, if this conversation stirred something in you, I know it did me, but maybe a reminder to reach out to someone, a youth somewhere, whether it be family or not, and consider volunteering. We hope you'll act on it, because
Yeah.
kids need more trusted adults in their lives. Today more than ever, and you might be exactly who they're waiting for. We encourage you to go backwards and check out episodes 19 and 42 that we did with Chris.
Yep.
And there's a lot of links we put in there for youth mental health resources, support networks. But you can go to blog.guidancepointllc.com/124 for episode 124,
Right.
and kind of find more about our conversation there. But we appreciate you tuning in, appreciate you
Yeah.
following and listening to our show. Until next time, thanks for tuning in to the Retirement Success in Maine podcast. Thank you.